Imagine for a moment that you are surrounded by riches, privileges, and comfort. That everyone knows you for your joy, elegance, and festive spirit. Now imagine that one day, all of that loses meaning, that a voice calls you from deep within, inviting you to leave everything, absolutely everything, to follow a path of poverty, humility, and radical love. Would you have the courage to answer that call? Saint Francis of Assisi did, and his response not only changed his life but the entire history of the Church and the world. Today I invite you to discover the living story of a man who became a pure reflection of the gospel, who found God in a kiss to a leper, in the contemplation of the stars, in the fragility of creation, and in the cross of Christ. Stay until the end, because you will not only learn astonishing facts about his life, but you will discover how his example can illuminate your own path, in a world that so desperately needs God's love and peace. Francis was born in Assisi, a medieval city in the heart of Italy, in the year 1181. His original name was Giovanni di Pietro Bernardone, but his father, a wealthy cloth merchant who often traveled to France, affectionately called him Francesco, meaning the little Frenchman. From childhood, Francis showed a lively, generous character, a lover of music, poetry, and adventure. He was the favorite among the youth of Assisi, always surrounded by friends, organizing parties, dreaming of nightly feats. His life seemed destined for worldly success. In his teenage years, Francis spared no expense, joyfully spending his father's money and living like a prince in a city that admired him. But God, in his infinite wisdom, had already planted a restlessness in his heart. Gradually, the joys of the world began to feel empty to him. In 1199, at the age of 18, Francis enlisted as a soldier in a war between Assisi and Perugia. He dreamed of glory in battle, but was captured and spent an entire year as a prisoner. There, in the darkness of his cell, a profound transformation began. His thoughts filled with questions about the meaning of life, about death, about God. Upon returning home, sick and weakened, he was no longer the same. Something inside him had changed forever. Seeking answers, Francis would retreat to pray in solitary places. One day, while writing, he encountered a leper, a figure that at that time provoked horror and revulsion. But Francis, moved by an inexplicable grace, got off his horse, embraced the leper, and kissed his sores. In that gesture, he felt an unknown peace, a joy so deep that, as he later said, what was bitter turned into sweetness. This was the beginning of his path toward God. He began visiting abandoned churches, serving the poor, and despising wealth. One day, in the church of San Damiano, while praying before the crucifix, he clearly heard the voice of Christ, "Francis, rebuild my house, which, as you see, is falling into ruin." Taking these words literally, he sold his father's cloth to restore the church. His father, furious, denounced him before the Bishop of Assisi, demanding that he return the money. It was at this moment that Francis, with supernatural courage, stripped himself of all his clothes in front of the bishop and the crowd, returned everything to his father, and proclaimed, "From now on, I will no longer say, 'My father Pietro Bernardone,' but, 'Our Father, who art in heaven.'" Covered only by a simple cloak, he began his life as the little poor man of Assisi. Francis began to live the gospel radically. Barefoot, with no possessions, he preached along the roads the peace and love of God. His preaching was not just words, but actions. He cared for lepers, helped the poorest, and rebuilt chapels with his own hands. His life, full of joy and simplicity, attracted other young men who, leaving everything, joined him. Thus, the Order of Friars Minor was born, officially recognized by Pope Innocent III in 1210. One of the most famous scenes of his life happened when Francis visited the Pope. Dressed in rags, accompanied by his brothers, he was received with suspicion. But the night before, the Pope had a dream in which he saw a poor man supporting the Basilica of St. John Lateran, which was about to collapse. Upon seeing Francis, he recognized him as the man from his dream and blessed his mission. Francis was also the first to create a live nativity scene at Christmas in 1223, in the village of Greccio. He wanted people to truly understand the mystery of the Incarnation, the humility of a God who becomes a child in a stable. This tradition, now seen worldwide, was born of his deep love for Christ. But the summit of his spiritual life came on Mount La Verna, where, during intense prayer and contemplation of the Passion, he received the stigmata, the wounds of Christ imprinted on his body. He lived the last years of his life with great physical suffering, but full of inner joy. He composed the Canticle of the Creatures, a praise to God for all creation, the sun, the moon, the water, the fire, the earth, even death. Francis died on October 3, 1226, lying naked on the ground, as he had lived, surrounded by his brothers. His last words were, "I praise you, Lord, for our sister death." Now, what makes Francis such a venerated saint? His life was a radical testimony of God's love. He renounced everything, not out of hatred for the world, but because he discovered that only in God is true wealth found. His joy, his humility, his love for the poor and for nature, make him a model for every Christian. Today, in a world full of noise, haste, and selfishness, Francis invites us to inner peace, to universal brotherhood, to liberating detachment. He teaches us that the gospel is not a theory, but a way of living that transforms. His prayer, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace," continues to resonate in hearts thirsty for meaning. And you? Are you willing to let Christ transform your life as he did with Francis? You may not be called to leave everything physically, but you are called to live with a free heart, generous, open to grace. Today, Francis calls you to look to heaven, to embrace your brothers, to live with less, to have more of God. If this message touched your heart, write in the comments, "Saint Francis, teach me to love as you did." Share this video with those who need hope, and together let us follow the path of peace and goodness. Thank you for joining me in this journey of faith. May the Lord bless you, may Saint Francis intercede for you, and may his example illuminate every step of your life. See you in the next video, family of faith. Peace and all good.